Hi, Lauren. Good morning.
Buenos dias, how are you?
I'm good. I'm ready. We're going to be talking about our spiritual journey. It's our first episode. We don't want to get into too many other things. We just want people to get the message.
About what is a spiritual journey and how do you know you're in a spiritual journey? I, I
Exactly.
think
And
that's going to be really enlightening to a lot of our listeners.
I agree. I think a lot of people might just like our perspective and maybe they can connect to it because there might be other people's journeys out there, other people's stories. But it's important to hear a few of them, and that's what's helped me connect throughout the years.
Absolutely. And you know what? Hearing other stories helps resonate with me. Maybe I can relate to it. So let's get into it. Let me ask you, what do you think? How do you know you're in a spiritual journey? What are the beginning stages of it?
I think for me, initially, you don't even realize it.
Yeah.
I think I think for me, I had a lot of people throughout the years trying to present these new things to me, and I was not. So the way that I know is that I wasn't accepting them yet.
Yeah.
Um, that's how I know that I wasn't on my spiritual journey. There was a lot of different things that people tried to present to me, to introduce, and I wasn't necessarily rejecting them. It's just that I wasn't so interested at the
Maybe
time.
you weren't open for it. It wasn't your time yet
I
for you
wasn't
to be ready to
connected
meet
to
that.
them. And when I finally started to see all of these connections, all of these people had been trying to present something to me, I think that's the moment when I realized I'm accepting it now. And look at what had already been presented to me. And that's when I finally realized that I was on this journey.
And
What
like you
about you?
connect the dots, all of these dots, they become connected, and you're like, wow, it's interconnected. This is all.
Speaking of, we need to be doing this every time we're talking.
Oh, should I
We
be
have
pulling
to
my Palo Santo right now, or Santo Palo? Let me say it right.
Okay, so for anyone watching, this is Palo Santo, but Lauren calls it Santo Palo,
It's
which
the
is,
gringo way. It's the
which is
gringo way.
Palo Santo is holy stick, and she calls it stick
Totally.
that is holy. There it is, which is
Well, listen, it is the holiest stick and it cleanses that aura, makes you feel just more grounded and connected with the divine. I don't know if anybody listening has any access to a sage, Palo Santo, but when you smell even incense, when you
yeah.
light them, it kind of grounds you. And if you allow it, I feel it helps you connect to that third eye.
I think we need to both be doing it. We're probably getting into too much lingo with the third eye, but tell me how you knew that your spiritual journey had started.
Okay, so I'm gonna keep it 100. Same with you. I was raised in a very religious family, but I was always a little resistant towards the scripture and living a biblical life. And I was just going about my life. However, things started crumbling outside of me, and it wasn't one aspect. There was multiple aspects, multiple variables of my life were just in turmoil, in chaos. And um I would have to say that, and I think a lot of people may be able to relate to this, you have to hit a rock bottom within yourself, whether it's mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And when you hit that rock bottom and you're looking for some way out or some way back up, um, I think that's when the divine or the universe or God or whoever you pray to, that is when that higher being is able to really tap in to get to your attention because you're at a vulnerable state. You're at a really low state. And so for me, I had a few personal variables that were not just one, it was two, three personal life variables that, broke up with a boyfriend. My mom and our relationship was very toxic at that time. And, I wasn't feeling seen or loved in my friendship environment. So I was going through a lot of relationship issues, felt very alone, felt very lonely. And I knew I needed to take this time for myself. Whereas normally I try to distract myself from the pain, and whether it is hang out with friends or smoke a little weed. No, but just something to numb the pain. And when I finally allowed myself to endure the pain, um, it brought me so much closer to the divine without me knowing. I wasn't intentionally looking for the divine's, a help or assistance. I just knew the pain hurt so much, and I knew I needed clarity. And that's when I think the universe just puts things in your face. They place them in your face. Like I said with you, with the connecting of the dots, you don't realize that when it's happening, but looking back, you're like, wow, I needed to see this person's TikTok. I needed to get that, that access to that book that this person recommended. And I would have probably never had it, but with all of those things coming together at once. And then when I realized, and I'm very big into my angel numbers, as in everyone can see 1111 right here, I started noticing the angel numbers were everywhere. And I truly did believe, I tapped into my faith and believed there's a higher being up there trying to communicate to me. Trust my intuition. My intuition will guide me where I'm supposed to be. And I just had that faith, that trust. And here we are on the journey.
And what you're even saying about, those things will just happen. I think a perfect example is this, us sharing this. We're trying to, share our story, but we're also trying to help people understand what is going on while they're on that journey. And I love these two examples because mine didn't necessarily, have to be like yours, and everyone's will be different. But I think you will get to that point, whether it's, because you're having a hard time or you're just having that many people around you trying to introduce you to what you might consider a spiritual topic. And I also want to say that you were talking about being religious growing up. So was I, so was my family, but I've been able to, in the past, I had really separated the two. And then you almost find this common ground where you create your version of what that is. And while we're, telling people about how they can know if they're on it or not, a lot of people might not be at that stage in their life yet. A lot of people, it's just everyone's is completely different. I know people in their 50s that are barely starting their journey. And
just the tip of it. Yes.
Yeah. And I know people that are younger than us that have already started it.
And are more wise and have had more experiences. So it doesn't, I think age is a factor, is a factor, but only based on what experiences you've been able to have in your life. However, if the divine is meant for you, if this is your time, if this is your calling, the universe is going to get to you no matter which way you're ready for it or not. And I do believe that there is that higher power that has your best interest in mind. And whether it's going to be, it's going to hurt to go through it, or if it's going to be good to go through it, at the end of the day, everything is a lesson learned. And we need those lessons to become our best, higher version of ourselves, right? Ultimately, we all want to be our best version. But we need to get rid of these blockages. And sometimes we have to let go. We have to let go of controlling the narrative, and we have to allow the divine to take control. Take that steering wheel, Jesus. Take that steering wheel.
I like that you said that about letting the divine take control, because would you have understood that before?
So before this journey, and now I want to say I am only, 8 months into my spiritual journey. Okay. That's why I'm so passionate about this, because 8 months ago, one, I wouldn't have been so open to hearing about the universe and having an impact on my life, nor would I be so passionate to talk about this divine and letting go and letting the divine take control, because I've always been someone who had to control the narrative, had to plan it out A to Z. And it actually brings a lot more peace when you let go and you say, you know what, I put it in your hands. Whatever is meant for me, I have to trust I am in the right spot where I'm supposed to be right now. Because the universe is working in its magical ways. Like they say, people aren't always meant to be in your life, but they're in your life for a reason, right? Same thing with all of our variables, our different experiences in life. They're in your life for a reason. You might not understand it now, but you can most certainly look back and see how you can connect the dots and see how, wow, someone out there is looking for us, out there looking for us.
And for someone listening to you saying, well, I have this person in my life that really stresses me, makes me upset, or whatever it might be, I can say that now sometimes I end up calling those people my challenge. Like I have people sent to me that are here to challenge me and to see how I can handle my reaction to them and to those things that make me uncomfortable.
When I tell you that hit a real bell for me, because I've been really trying to be more present and more, I think we've discussed, is coming from a place of love. Everyone and everything that you
Thank
teach.
you for all watching.
Love everyone. But coming from being intentional about coming from a place of love. And what does that mean? That means something different for everybody. But I think ultimately, when someone thinks of love, they think of, niceness and just respect and genuinity and like a certain appreciation for just being a human. Everybody's got a story. And so I agree when you say that the universe puts something, to challenge you. Yes, at that moment, those people might be those challenges, because that universe is working on the willpower of, can you truly still remember to come from a place of love? And it's not going to be easy every day. Every day is a challenge. Every day is a different situation. But you know how I look at that? Every day you wake up and look at your life as a movie that's in Hollywood, that's on the big screens. You never know the next scene unless you've seen the movie before. So just let it go, be open to it, and try to find, there's always some positive in a negative situation. It's all about your ability to change that perspective, that mental outlook. And I think that's what's really helped me in my spiritual journey. Is I was going through all this pain and this emotional turmoil, and now I'm able to sit here proudly with a smile on my face and say, I feel much more connected to myself than I did 8 months prior, because I gave myself that 8 months to get to know what I like, to get to know what I need, what I want. And I think in our society, with all the distractions that we have, it's almost taboo to take some time to just be still, be alone, be present.
Yeah.
And
especially if you have those people around you that you might, like I used to look up to, that say, you got to be hustling. You got to, if you stop, it's not, you're not progressing.
So you almost feel guilty, right? Don't you feel guilty?
Mentality. Yes, I had that mentality, or even not necessarily guilt, but that what I am doing wouldn't be looked at as something of value, because stopping, there is no monetary value in that.
Yeah.
All there is the value that you give yourself.
But if you look at it, change that perspective. When you stop and you take a break from the hustle mentality, because girl, in the East Coast, we got that hustle. Everything is supposed to happen yesterday. Okay. We're always out here to make a dollar, or just progress and grow. However, if you think about it this way, your statement was there's no monetary value if you stop. But I look at it as there's so much restorative value in me stopping. And by me stopping, it allows my mind to be able to rest, reset, be clearer for the next interaction. It allows me to analyze my previous, situations that, now I have a moment. Did I handle it the way I wanted to handle it? Or there's some triggers, And if you allow yourself to constantly be distracted, whether it's on your phone, whether it's on the TV, whether it's with friends who are pulling and draining your energy, whether it's family, whatever, if you don't give yourself that time to be happy with being alone. And I think that was one of my biggest issues, was I was afraid of being alone. Once you allow yourself to enjoy your own company, you get such a beautiful bond with yourself that it's almost like whoever else is in my life needs to be a great compliment, because you realize you have everything you need inside of you. All that love you were desiring, all that attention you're desiring, give it to yourself first before you give it to others. You're your biggest asset.
And adding to what you were saying, so that used to be my mentality previously, that I couldn't stop, that I had to keep going. And then I saw that value in stopping and in rewiring too, because once I stopped, I started to see things differently. And for anyone who might still have the mentality of going and going, and if you stop, that's going to hold you back, I can also add that once you do stop, it actually, and you eliminate everything, because I had my life filled with just everything, every event, every gathering, every job. Just I filled it up with so many things that once I was able to eliminate everything, and it is not easy, especially for someone that was a workaholic like me. Once you were able to stop and give yourself that time, now you have this availability for that thing you're actually supposed to be pursuing. Because you might feel, before I felt like I wanted to pursue things that help people, that brought, outside of my work, I was always trying to figure out how to bring more knowledge, how to spread more love, how to spread more joy, happiness. And then I was doing it, but in a different scale.
And here we are. We're still spreading that joy and happiness.
We are, but in a different way. I think, you're able, this is something that we've chosen to do, that we are doing just to help spread, possibly more love and more knowledge on your spiritual journey.
I'm intentional right here, sending so much love to all these viewers.
Exactly.
Good energy.
Earlier you mentioned that East Coast mentality. I don't think we've mentioned, because we don't really, I think we just want people to get to know us organically. So Lauren is in the East Coast and I am in the West Coast. We're completely on opposite sides of the country. And I think that's something else to be said too, of how we've become closer through our spiritual journey.
It sure has been.
We knew each other before, and we believe that we were meant to have, that initial interaction, connection, but that has turned into
the introduction.
Different, completely different.
We have grown spiritually, but organically. And I do believe that the universe placed you in my life. And at the time, did I know that you were going to be mi hermosa hermana espiritual? No, but I am forever grateful and blessed, because in my darkest moment, I had a light to, reach out to. And now here we are, bringing two different coast mentalities to one.
And cultures.
And two different cultures too. And so our mindsets are completely different, but we both are on the same page. And yet, how we present and communicate our thoughts and our beliefs may be different, but they still come together. And this is beautiful because any of the viewers that are watching, they might be West Coast, they might be Midwest, they might be down south, but it just shows somebody that it doesn't matter where you are. You can connect with anybody, especially we are so lucky to have the resource of social media. And that was why I'm intentionally on here, is because whoever does listen is so fortunate to have the resource to learn from somebody who's already been through these experiences. Because when we were growing up, I didn't have these podcasts, these vlogs, I didn't have the social media that I could reach out to a community or just feel like I connected with somebody without even talking to them. But because why? Because we are out here, we are releasing the shade, we're releasing the shield, right? And we're being us. And if we can do that and we can show people things that we've been through, these people can learn from our mistakes or learn from our experiences and help speed their process up, Whereas I wish maybe I could have started this when I was in my early 20s. Would I have been open to it? Maybe not as much.
Yeah.
But again, everyone's timeline is different. But having the resource of understanding what this is,
I think even just someone possibly looking to start their spiritual journey, or they have already started it but haven't had enough people around them to be able to share their stories with or to connect to. And I think that's something that we can bring. And as we're wrapping up here, I want to maybe go back to the beginning of how we talked of, this is how I knew I started it. But once it started, how did you know that it was already in motion? And I don't know if you have maybe a moment where you just had that moment, you realize you're like, wow, okay, I'm in this. There's no going back. I'm on track to something bigger. And I know that I initially felt like I was so much more in the journey than that moment. When I had that moment, I was like, oh, okay, it's real now. It's official. So I wanted to ask you, for hopefully someone watching that maybe thinks, okay, I really feel like I'm in it, but am I? How did you know?
So for me, it was truly just trusting the divine. And when I let go of that control of having to control the narrative, and then I just started seeing small blessings. First, it was small little blessings that, again, maybe it had to do with changing my mentality and perspective of the way I looked at things. But when I was hurting and I was, please, Jesus, universe, help me feel better, I noticed, and it wasn't overnight, I noticed though that small little things were changing in my life, whether it were being the relationship with my mother, for example. That was a very hard moment of me going through something personally strenuous. But when I realized that if I was able to, one, calm my reactions, which was something I was not personally in tune with before this spiritual journey started. I think it all starts with intention. It starts with you're in a low spot, or maybe you're not. Maybe you're just going through a transition.
Yes.
But you have to, it's more of like an intention of, okay, I am ready for the universe to deliver whatever it's supposed to be delivering. And if you start opening your eyes up to what the world is providing you. And I noticed for me, whenever I started being grateful for even the smallest things, just waking up today and breathing, which, people take that for granted, but another day on earth is another day to change your life, right? So, it was just first starting with being gratitude. Gratitude was a big one. Being intentional, and gratitude. And when I was being intentional, I want to work with a diviner. I want help. I want to connect with the higher being because I am in a low spot right now, and I don't feel that there's any other way besides connecting to the divine. That was my intentional way of working and knowing I was starting my spiritual journey. But then, doing some daily meditation work, trying to again get to know myself a little bit better, doing some journaling, which also helped me get to know myself better. But then doing visualization techniques where I would see my best higher self and what she was doing, what she was wearing, how does she feel, how does she talk, right? That all started coming together when I would be grateful for, let's say, thank you, Jesus, for a beautiful encounter with these friends today that I was not planning on having, right? And then you'll just start seeing all these other little blessings. And for me, I feel the angel numbers are always talking to me. Today, right before we were chatting, it was 10:10 my time, which is what, 7:10 your time. But again, 10:10, right? So again, I was open to all these communications from the universe. And I know I just have this belief in my heart that someone up there hears me, someone sees me, and someone's working in my favor. And everything that goes on in my life, whether good or bad, I know now I accept it with open arms because I know that this is right where I'm supposed to be. If you look at everything as how can I learn from this, right? It's going to just make you a better person. And ultimately, I'm just trying to achieve my highest self. So I feel I knew it because of the gratitude, the intentionality, but then seeing the little signs, seeing all the little connections come together. It was not always all at once, but when you look back at the picture, they all are connected. All those variables. Me meeting 2 years ago, that's here we are. Step one. Tell me about you. How did you know you were in it? You were actually in it.
No, I agree. I think you start seeing all these things come together. As I mentioned in the beginning, there was all these people that were trying to introduce me to different things that at the moment I just was not interested in. But once I became interested, I really thought, oh, okay, I'm on this spiritual journey because you hear about it, because you know that once you start connecting to certain things. But I think, like you said, I all of a sudden, and this will keep increasing and it'll become even bigger as you continue with your journey. But all of a sudden, I had all of these different people, not even necessarily the people initially trying to introduce me to it, I had all these different people almost putting me in situations where I would have never been, but they were creating growth and spiritual growth. And I was attracting people that I would have never thought could bring me some of this spiritual knowledge that I hope we can share too throughout our episodes, and that I would never have known existed. But also, I think I wasn't at a place before where my mind could have accepted all this knowledge and could have understood this knowledge. And even looking back now, after being in this for a couple of years, I look back and I realize some of the knowledge that was initially presented to me now makes sense. And I could have maybe made sense of it in the beginning, but didn't necessarily until my journey kept going. So I think that's how I knew I had these people that were approaching me. For me personally, it was people telling me that I was going to do something, that I was meant for something more spiritual. And I first, I felt it was a compliment. I felt it was very nice. I could feel the love from these people. So that made me trust them and listen to them. But I've been so fortunate to have these people that approach me, and then later to have the light and the divine confirm it. But for me, I was not going to, I think, avoid this any longer. Like I told you initially, I had a lot of people trying to present this to me, and I wasn't at the moment open to it. I wasn't giving even myself the time
Yeah.
to do it. Because you need to give yourself the time. You need to open your mind to all of this.
You have to be wanting to open your mind as
Yeah,
well. But I don't
yeah.
mean to interrupt. I just want to say one thing that no, when it's your time, it's your time. The universe will figure out a way to get a hold of you. For me, I will never forget. I was
I
on my
think that's
phone
the best way to
upset.
put it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, when
Say that again.
it's your time, the universe.
We'll figure out a way to get in touch with you. For you, it was the humans that were complimenting you and opening you and exposing you to this world. For me, I will never forget it. I was scrolling on my TikTok and I came across a random TikToker talking about, maybe at that moment it was spiritual journey, maybe it was energy, maybe whatever it was. But at that moment, the universe knew this is how we're going to get in touch to Lauren. This is it. She's a stroller. Where you were associating with people. They just had to put the right people in your life. So to our listeners, you're never going to have an exact way that the spiritual divine is getting in touch with you. But when it's your time, when it's your time for growth, when it's your time to heal, the universe will get a hold of you somehow. The universe, divine, whoever you want to call it, they will get in touch with you.
Yeah.
And you might not be aware of it at the moment, but when you look back, you're going to say, aha, like, wow, this is what I'm going through at the moment. Okay, I understand now.
Actually, you made me think of this movie that I watched on Netflix once, and I think it's like an African film. It's a maybe more low budget film, but I love the story to it. And it was about Jesus calling. Like if God, I should correct myself. If God was calling, would you answer? And I know that sounds like something more spiritual, but I mean something more religious. But I also want to say that, like you said, you were scrolling. Sometimes it's God presenting himself in a different form. So and will you answer? So you stopped and you saw that TikTok, and I know it's like TikTok, that doesn't sound spiritual, but
Right?
will come to you on YouTube. They'll come to you in different forms. It's whatever way it needs to be presented.
Whenever the message needs to get to
For
you.
you to accept it, for you to absorb it.
Yes.
Because whatever way that is, that's the way that it will come.
And think about it. Maybe I was more open to accepting a stranger off TikTok's advice as opposed to reaching out to my resources in real life that, were going to be helping me. I wasn't ready to do that. So everyone's journey is going to be a little different. But I think this was a great introduction to what a spiritual journey is.
Yes.
And I think we should divulge a little later, maybe in our future episodes, of how we've even gotten a little closer to the spiritual, to the divine in our own ways. I know I've had some of my own experiences, and I'm sure you have a few stories that the listeners would love to hear, right?
Yes.
So I think this is great.
Let us know what topic you want us to cover next.
Yes.
Yes. Let us know what you want to hear from us. And with that is it from me. I am Lily.
And I'm Lauren.
And we send you a lot of love and light. Thank you for watching.
Sending so much love.